Okay, you're live.
And we lost Josh. We were so close.
Should I just keep the stream going and hopefully he comes back in a minute?
Yeah, we'll give him a few minutes. And
Okay. There he is.
Melanie jumped on and kicked me out. Everybody froze. All right. Are we good to go live?
Yep.
All right. Yes, we'll bring the meeting to order at 5:39. I was just trying to bring up the agenda when that happened. All right. Consent agenda. Anything new? Everybody getting the meetings? Able to adopt the meetings or any questions on the meetings? It's been a few months since we've met. Are any motions to approve the meeting minutes?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? All right, next item. Okay, so acknowledgement or receipt of public comment. Is there any public comment that we received, Lane?
Nope, there was not any public comment received.
So let's dive right into reports and discussions. Director's report.
Okay, so we're in June now, so we're on the slippery slope on out to summer. Kindergarten orientation is tomorrow, which is exciting to welcome families. We're doing it virtually this year, and then with plans to do something more on site in the fall and like end of August to welcome people on campus, and hopefully vaccination rates continue to go up and we can have fewer restrictions in that regard. Let's see, just busy as folks are planning and prepping graduation. I know Nate's been having lots of fun with graduation planning. That'll happen on the 12th. So that's next Saturday. So be ready for that at our usual time at 11 in the old gym. Tomorrow there'll be the Senators Wyden and Merkley, as well as Representative DeFazio. They'll be up kind of touring the area. They'll be at the school and then at the Blue River post office dedication. And then I think they're checking out some affordable housing sites up a little bit further in the area. So it's kind of exciting. Today finished our high school success peer review panel, so I had to present kind of what our use of the Measure 98 high school success funds will be, and then get judged by groups of our peers. So I was in a group with Monroe and Lowell, and then Twin Rivers Charter. That's the Northwest Youth Academy school. So it's kind of some fun times. And then just continuing to work with insurance and FEMA to get to the bottom of the scope and the projects that for replacing the concession stand and storage area and grandstands. Made some progress on some of the other work orders, so it's good to hear. Good to feel like we're stuck there for a couple months, and that was getting a little frustrating for both sides. So there's probably a lot I am forgetting, so forgive me if I'm missing a lot of stuff. sure April and Nate have some exciting stuff that they're doing that they might want to share when we get into charter board member comments too, because I know both of you have some kind of cool stuff going down. So that will be my director's report for this month.
Financial report, Lacey? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, I'm pulling it up. I emailed it out this morning. Right now we have $11,998.26 in our bank account. We had our contribution was $27.14 this month, $7.14 from Amazon Smile, and then $20 from our employee contribution. Core is still holding steady at $2,200, and there of that 11,998 is theirs. So no big changes, just $27.
When is our next insurance payment for the board?
That's paid through the district, and we already
Okay.
paid it.
Okay. So we don't have to pay for that out of here. That's okay.
No, no. The
Bud-
only thing we pay for is like our registration, our business registration, and then our CT12 reports and stuff like that. Those are things that our board pays for, not the district.
and they're pretty minimal, right?
Yeah, they're like $40 and then $50, I think.
Okay. Budget Finance Committee?
Well,
Yeah, we have
Josh
an
and-
approved budget.
yeah, Josh and Melanie, you guys were there. You want to
Yeah,
catch
we
folks
passed
up?
the budget. Yeah, we passed the budget assuming the 5-year carry forward for student population. So unless that doesn't pass, I think we have a budget.
Mhm.
If it doesn't pass, there is going to be a recalculation. Right? There's only going to be one proposal submitted for that, right, Lacey? Remember correctly?
Well, it's about a $292,000 difference if it doesn't pass. So
Yeah.
let's cross our fingers. Do we have a timeline for that, Lane? Like when is it closing? Do we know?
Yes and no. I know they have
Okay.
a work session on it tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, I thought it was soon.
Yeah. So and then once it goes through the readings, it should go pretty quick through
Mhm.
either houses. It's just there's just some kind of disagreement about where the money funding came from. So
Yeah, that's what I heard. I just don't want it to get tied up in the bureaucratic red tape. That's the unfortunate part. It sounds like everybody's in support of it, but when it comes down to, actually pushing it out, hopefully nothing happens there.
I think there's like 2 weeks left in session. So
That's what I was wondering.
you're starting to see more things get passed, like the Senate Bill 745 to allow the water district to take
Yep.
on sanitation district powers passed today unanimously. So I was just waiting for the governor to sign that one. So
501c3 Governance Committee.
Nothing new right now, like I said, but all the reports are usually around December, January. So nothing new.
Curriculum Committee.
has not met. I know their folks met today to kind of solidify some more of the summer program stuff. There's still a lot of moving pieces to get nailed down going into it though. So, in that regard for summer curriculum, those being met. We also met last week, middle high school staff, and kind of talked about what we wanted to look at for bell schedule for the coming year. Looking at how do we take what was good from this year's schedule and then maybe apply it to years moving ahead. It seems like the preference was to go back to the old 7-period day. So there's still some tweaks to do to make that schedule line out. But so that's another kind of curriculum discussion that we're having heading up to the end of the year.
Community Outreach Committee. I don't know if they've met.
Yeah, I don't know they haven't been meeting, so I don't know if they'll regroup in the fall and start fresh or what, but we'll find out.
All right. Future of the Charter Board. This is one we've kind of talked about over time here. From my understanding right now, the only real oversight the Charter Board has is the curriculum committee side of it, which Nate, I think that's one of you and April are on that committee or have been prior, and you're trying to kind of form that to some extent, or what's the future of the curriculum committee stand right now with all the other things you have going on?
So I don't know what the future is, but I'm not taking a leadership role in what that looks like.
April.
I'm happy to try to get more people on that committee with us and try and kind of get it going again.
Yeah, I think just the Herculean effort of this past year has been, the forefront and the focus of staff and administration, and so there hasn't been a big, even on my end, there hasn't been a big push to convene and bring folks together on that. So, that will, but I think that is looking ahead, that sort of work can continue with or without, and actually should continue in a good functioning district with or without a separate charter board with school governance power. So.
And the charter board was needed originally for grants and the setup of the charter. Today it is no longer needed.
No, we weren't even going to have a curriculum committee.
Okay.
It was governance and stuff. And then I remember speaking up and saying, hey, shouldn't we, if we're changing how we're teaching, shouldn't we have some committee to address that? And I think over the years that we had that, there were a lot of really dedicated teachers who were working really hard to get things together. And I feel like we made a lot of progress that we chose to implement, but it was very difficult without a more central backing to it. I mean, it's really difficult for me and Corey Christensen and April and Corey Culp to come back to the staff and say, hey guys, here's how we're doing it. So I guess just as we think about how that moves forward, I think it really needs to be a strongly centrally led body. Even if the ideas are coming from teachers, we need to be having full administrative backing.
I agree. But I think part of what you're talking about is distributed leadership. So the whole point of having a committee to talk about it is to then have weight to carry forward without having it be top down. So there's probably more support that was needed to communicate those shifts and changes. But I don't think it definitely doesn't come down to, it needs to come from one person.
No, and I think it was a good vehicle for having teacher input, but as to whether or not things were carried on, it was kind of up to each teacher's choice. I know one of the things that we needed that we got together were course syllabi and scope and sequences, and along with that, Corey and I came up with a Google Drive structure so that when a teacher leaves, they've got files handed on to them that at least have some structure of a course on there, and I still use that to this day. So if I walk out, whoever comes in next has something. But whether new hires were even told about that, or whether we touched back in on that, that's not something that can be distributed. You know, that's not like on me and Corey Culp to bring up. So I think the curriculum committee type work needs to continue, but I just advocate for it having institutional legitimacy.
Yeah, I kind of take that for granted because in every school I've ever been involved with, and if one teacher leaves in the middle of the year, the next teacher's got all the information. Even at the end of the year, the next teacher has everything that the previous teacher had. Is that not the case here?
I wouldn't say so.
You know, I would think they would have all of the curriculum and all the support and the tools. And then I don't know if, you know, I know the first set of folks that got hired, we tried to connect them into the curriculum map, but I don't know which, you know, how long ago that was and if everybody was able to access it. So I think there was the, hey, we have this. I don't know if there was the follow-up of like, hey, have you actually got in and looked at it? So I agree that could be put to better use.
See, I would assume you just have that anyway. I think that would be something mandated by the school district to cover a shortcoming that came up throughout the year. I'm kind of surprised it's not. I mean, in business, anywhere outside business, that's kind of the way it operates. So somebody can step right in and pick up where the one left off. Life happens, right? We've all experienced that. So I mean, I'm with Nate. I think that thing should be instituted probably at a higher level. It should be kind of a mandate that they do those kind of things.
And that's just one particular example I was throwing out there. I just think, you know, we can knock heads together and share as much as we want, but unless there's a central body for it, which I was hoping that the charter board would be, unless there's a backbone to it, it doesn't make a difference.
So if you had to build out an ideal curriculum committee, Nate and April, I mean, who would that consist of? Would that consist of, I know, teachers, staff? Would that consist of community members as well?
Yeah, it would. If we wanted to satisfy our title requirements, we should have parents on it. As being a title district, we actually need to include parents, and that it's bigger than what we're talking about. So when we make an adoption for a new curriculum, all that needs to all be reviewed by parents too, and we sign off. And in most cases, we do have parent input because it happens at the board meetings. But it'd be nice to have somebody at the committee level as well. So moving forward, we should make sure we include parents in this committee.
Is there a requirement on number of bodies or a mixture of staff, non-staff? So what would be the ideal? I mean, I've never been part of a curriculum committee, so I got to rely on Nate and the rest of the group here that's done this before. What's your ideal number of people on a curriculum committee? Is it, 2 per elementary, 2 per middle, 2 per high? I mean, what's kind of that mixture that you feel would be most beneficial?
Definitely think it would be helpful to have another elementary person. I feel like it's always just been one person from the elementary. So I think at least 2 would be good.
Any thoughts, Nate?
I think it's less about the number and more about what the stated purpose and framework that drives that committee is. If we could have every teacher on there, because really we're all department heads. There is no like, oh, I'll figure out science and the rest of the teachers are good. Like, for it to be really effective, everybody should be a representative on that. But it needs to also be tied in to the framework and functioning of the school. So like, we've talked about project-based learning and what this looks like and this, and we had, limited dipping of our toes into it, and I know COVID, did derail some of what we were attempting to do last year. But the number doesn't matter to me as a teacher unless there's some accountability and backing to it, I think. I don't know if that makes sense, but I can.
Let's go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I can sit in a room and, Corey Culp stops by my room every morning. We talk curriculum all the time, and that's great. Makes us more effective at what we do. But without some sort of framework to it, that's all it is,
I think the number helps in a couple of things. I think the more you have involved, it gives the teachers as well as the community members more of a say, right? If you get 15 people on the curriculum committee, that's a good portion of the school, right? As far as instruction or staff. So that gives you some weight automatically, right? As a force. And then also if you get buy-in from the community, it's showing the community that the teachers are definitely, involved in this and passionate about this. And they're open and listening, open-minded to what the parents and the rest of the community has to say about the curriculum. So I think the bigger the number, the better off you are. You can't do it with just 2 people, right? We know that.
Right. And what I'm saying is not that small numbers matter. What I'm saying is we could get 300 people together, and without having that somehow formally as a part of our school operations, it makes no difference. It has to be more than just a group of individuals getting together and talking pretty ideas.
So what's the requirement or the need, what would be the requirement to have the school put that in force, I guess, to where the curriculum committee has a certain ability? I might be missing the right words here, Lane, but accountability, if you get a hold of the curriculum committee accountable, what do they have on their side to say, hey, we're bringing forth some ideas. These are the things we need to have. We need A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are things we'd like. And the others are the 5-year plan. That's probably more of the structure you're looking for, Nate, right? To some extent.
Yeah, things like you mentioned, a 5-year plan, like that central sort of vision, I think needs to be tied in to the daily operation of the school, and not just hey, can we meet on a Tuesday and kind of get things together? Like it's got to be more integrated to that.
Is there something at the school board level that would have to be done to make the curriculum committee or you feel comfortable that they're in the right direction? Is there a formal process?
That's what I was going to ask. Like, is there something that we need to do as a school board to, make that more official and to support them in a meaningful way?
Is that question directed towards me generally?
Well, I think it's directed. It's sort of a procedural question. Certainly, the school board is going to support a curriculum committee, but if there's something that we can do to sort of I don't know if it makes a difference, but to sort of rubber stamp it and say, yes, we want this to happen, and we will, and we recognize this as as a committee that is part of the backbone of the school, and we want to support it. If that's helpful, then I just don't know procedurally if that is helpful, or if that's something that we should do, or obviously we support it in many other ways other than just the procedural way. But I guess I'm sort of asking that of Lane.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that we have that you would unify this, so there's our SIA plans, there's our, high school success plans, those are SIP plan. And the rumor has it they were supposed to become kind of one plan. So what we have is this is kind of my perspective on what's happened. So we've have so few heartbeats that a lot of the energy gets put into crafting and doing the engagement to create these plans. And then the next plan comes along that has to be done. And so then the bandwidth to follow up and make sure that that's happening has been tough. Even when we transitioned into the charter school, we, initially we started professional development that wasn't very well received. So we pivoted, tried to find other ways to bring in professional development. Besides dictating that everybody hands in, aligned lesson plans every week, it's hard to figure out what the accountability side would be, because honestly, everybody's, like Nate said, the curriculum chair for their department, especially in the middle high building. So, their time could be better spent planning good lessons. I also think like we have like, if you look at our school calendar, because of the cuts that have been made in previous years, we have like 2 actual days in the year that's just for professional development. Everything else at the start of the year, the ramp up to get into school. And then there's 2 days that are set aside that are just for professional development. We tried doing, half day professional early release days. Those were of, mixed utility, because there's different kind of initiatives pulling at that time. Then also, how much time what can you achieve after a half day of teaching all of your classes? So I'm open to building in whatever framework needs to be in place to make these sort of, this more successful. But I would just like to know what. I hear a lot of like stuff that like isn't working, or that people don't appreciate, or, so I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. And I'm excited that, next year we'd have maybe another body that could help free up some people to then help with that next step of like frequently following up and keeping the focus on, what we talked about with place-based and project-based and service work, but you go to, yeah. So that's kind of my take on it, but that's just my perspective.
I don't think this board's gonna fix the curriculum committee problem or issue, right? There's just one, there's not enough staff on it. 2, this board really doesn't function on much else at this point in time. Would that be accurate, Lane and Lacey? That, I mean, our ability to impact the school is really on the curriculum side, I guess, at this point in time. Would that be true? There's really not a lot of other impact we can have from the charter board.
Well, I think there's a lot of impact that we could be having. And I think like big one would be like participating and getting other perspectives, to take a look at things and to see what's going on, and to raise, ideas and bring in partnerships. And, the other thing would be, fundraising and finding more funds to support the mission of different things that are happening in the classroom, and getting kids outside the classroom, or finding other ways to connect, the community to the school. But when it's a struggle to get enough people online to hold the meeting, and then we don't have, the other thing we don't have is the support that the district board does with like having, a paid secretary or a paid business manager. Like Lacey does a great job, but that's, part of her role, the extra thing that she's taking on. We don't have, that infrastructure to support it, which makes it really difficult to make sure things get done in a timely manner, or notices get sent out in a timely manner, minutes get sent out, so those are some foundational, like functional concerns that I think if we wanted to choose to move forward, if you guys choose to continue, like those are some things we need to address, is having, we're asking how many people should we have at a committee meeting when we have a hard time getting 5 to this main committee meeting.
I'm all for helping either which way. I've got a lot of balls in the air, but very important to me to have my kids educated well as their friends and the rest of the community. It's not just me and that it affects our community as a whole. So whether we move forward with the charter board or the curriculum committee, I'm willing to help Nate and April to the capacity that I can. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing there may be a little more buy-in come next school year on the curriculum committee, once things maybe get a little more normal than where they are today. It's hard to say. But we might be able to get more done if we didn't have to have 4.
Yeah, I think the better approach than having like another standalone curriculum committee is embedding that work into the other work that we already do. So that's where we get tripped up so often, is so there's just fine. So like managing a small district's a lot of fun because you build a lot of great relationships with staff and families and students. But then you run this, I'm discovering there's this fine line between trying to put too much into one thing or having too many separate things. So finding the sweet spot of having just the amount of the right things into the one thing. That's what someday I'll write a book on. But until that happens, so I think, but it's like trial and error. And I think like this sort of work about, we need to have staff voices about what our PD needs for the year. Well, we already do that every year, right, Lacey, with our surveys, and then we got to hustle and get that sort of feedback, and then have the right sort of time to have those things put in place. So I think.
Well, and
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say it's bringing in staff who aren't typically involved too. I think that we run up against the same staff doing the same thing, or the same people involved with everything, and there's just only so much time in a day. So it's trying to find a way to entice those people who don't typically get involved to get involved, and then that way it could help with the workload. So there's plenty of people, there's enough staff, but if we don't, if only 10 of them participate all the time, then it makes it a lot harder, because I sit in these meetings and it's the same people over and over again.
Well, and you get the same message, right? You never get to hang with.
Yeah, that's true. It's that we're not getting their perspective on the situation.
Would it be easy to go forward as an informal group, where you don't have to vote on things? I think that would probably be our best bet, honestly. It might be easier to recruit people, Nate and April. I'm more than happy to help you out. I'm all for the community. I'm on the water district. I'm on the park district. I'm on the McKenzie River Valley Wellness Board. I'm trying to do everything I can do to rebuild this community and make it better. And I just don't feel like this board right now has a lot of bearing in that aspect compared to everything else I'm doing. But at the same time, your points of curriculum and making it something that the teachers want to teach and enjoy teaching, as well as what the community needs taught, are all valid and very important points. So I'm for getting rid of the formalities and bringing up the curriculum committee, whatever you want to call it, right? But I don't know that we need the formal process going forward, especially if we can hold Alyssa to her word.
April's got her hands up.
I'm just thinking, I feel like I don't hardly ever get to talk with the whole elementary, because we do have our staff meetings, but usually we have whole school stuff to talk about, or there's stuff on the agenda. So I don't know if we could have weekly like team meetings. I know a lot of other districts, it would be more of a grade level thing, but we're small enough we could do like elementary or middle high where it's more like teacher led and we can just brainstorm together. I know the elementary would be interested in like weekly team meetings.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, as long as it's not you guys are okay doing it on your own and keeping us in the loop. But yeah, by all means go figure it out and report back, and because a lot of times we just get in the way,
Any other comments from anybody else? Is there a motion on either direction to move forward?
Well, I think that would come up when we talk about the resolution, because that's how you would act to
Okay,
then.
sorry.
That's okay.
Been a long day, I'm sorry. I was up at Lions earlier, clients, so it's gone all day. So any other comments then from anybody? I mean, all points are valid. We want to make sure that we don't lose the importance of what this committee's done over these years before I was here even. And going forward, it's going to be an important part of the community. So,
Well, I think on that note, I would like to say that we're still a nonprofit. We still have that status and we still have those requirements. So even though we're not meeting once a month, we'll have to still hold to those obligations. And we still have that for, fundraising, grant writing, anything we may need. We're not dissolving that piece.
correct.
And I think
Just
what it will do, though, is because we wouldn't, the McKenzie River Community School nonprofit, the 501c3, wouldn't be operating a public school, then it wouldn't be a public meeting requirement to hold meetings. So then you could have, executive board conduct business without it having to be broadcast on the internet or have, those sorts of things. So that'd be one other functional change.
could also get together for a barbecue, right? And talk things over that way, or, more informal, a little more open, where you're not having to worry about what's recorded or not what's recorded, I guess. All right. Having no other heard anything else on that, action items, resolution, transfer school. Should we transfer school oversight at this point in time of the charter board to the school board?
Has everybody had a chance to look that document over? I know there was going to be a few suggested edits, but pretty much it just, it starts out a resolution in support of transferring McKenzie River Community School governance to McKenzie School District Board of Directors. So whereas the McKenzie River Community School Board of Directors was instrumental in establishing the McKenzie River Community School Charter School, uniting a wide spectrum of community members and stakeholders, and whereas the McKenzie River Community School Board of Directors secured, implemented, and monitored implementation grant funds, whereas since the completion of the implementation grant, the McKenzie River Community School of Directors has had difficulty securing quorum for meetings as evidenced by multiple missed meetings in the past year. And whereas the McKenzie River Community School Board of Directors finds that an active and engaged board is vital in responding to the challenges raised by COVID-19 and the Holiday Farm fire recovery. And now therefore be it resolved that the McKenzie River Community School Charter Board of Directors approves the transference of school governance of the McKenzie River Community Charter School to the McKenzie School District Board of Directors effective upon the approval of the District Board of Directors June 30, 2023. I have that date wrong. 21. So there's the first edit. Sorry about that. And then adopted by the Board of Directors of the McKenzie River Community School change that to first day of May.
June.
Of June, thank you. 2021. So that's just a rough framework. We can talk about what should be included, what needs to be omitted. I think it's kind of bare bones transferring it to the district board, which is allowed under Oregon state law.
Is there anything you can see, Nate, that you'd like to change right now or April on that resolution?
I don't know if it necessarily needs changing. Just being the stick in the mud, I have to say, I think blaming it on low attendance and COVID-19 and the fires is a little disingenuous. We didn't have a vision or a purpose or anything to do after the grant. And Lacey brought in all this equipment and all this stuff. And then once we got that done, it was just kind of like, okay, let's approve the minutes. Let's go to the next thing. We never transitioned into having any larger function.
I mean, would it make sense? I absolutely hear what you're saying. Would it make sense to phrase it more in terms of the fact that and I'm obviously not a charter board member per se, but just that the board has served its initial purpose of, creating the framework and develop, becoming a 501c3 and some of the foundational things that the charter board did accomplish. Maybe phrasing it that way instead of, sort of in that way of, we couldn't get enough attendance and so on and so forth. I don't know. That seems like it's a little bit more in line with what happened.
And I don't think the intention wasn't to blame COVID and the Holiday Farm fire. It's just saying that it's important that we have, if we're going to take on these things, to have, people that are engaged. But we can cut that out because it pretty much says that since the completion of the implementation grant, we've struggled with quorum.
That is true.
But we can cut that.
I think the thing is, you do have people who are engaged. Like you look at these people, and these are all people who are actively engaged in the school day in and day out. So I think the implication there is like, oh, well, we just didn't show up, where in reality we're showing up all the time. There was no need to show up because there was nothing to do. And again, that's mud, but
no, I see that. And that wasn't put in there to be offensive. So sorry if that was taken that way, because you guys are there all the time. So yeah, we can cut that portion out. What do you think, Melanie?
And I think you can almost word it as even, due to lack of quorum due to the community, not necessarily the school, right? Because honestly, some of our community members are engaged and dispersed in other things. So not so much the school side of it, but the individual side of it. I mean, that's part of what's happened recently, this last year. Most of us have been here every month, right? There's been a few that have not been able to make it at times, but if we have more members, we could have quorum potentially, but.
Well, that's the thing, is if we did have quorum, what would we be doing? Like, I don't think anybody can tell us what the purpose of this body is. And so it's like, I don't see any point in blaming the school or blaming the community, because everybody's in this, like everybody's here because they care. And what if we had showed up? What would we have done? I don't know. That's more of a philosophical point than anything about the text.
Melanie?
And I agree with Dave, because the fact is that even for us that care, there was a point where we didn't show up and give quorum, because why were we coming to a meeting to sit and talk about nothing or have nothing to decide on? So I feel like that's kind of where it's at too. So it wasn't just because we couldn't get people here.
I mean, a big part of this is the curriculum committee, right? And that.
It was
No, I disagree.
Part of
big.
it.
Yeah,
Part of
it
it.
was.
Well,
It
it
was
seems
a
like a big part of it is
Yeah,
a big
it
part.
was a
It seems
small
like a
part
big
of it.
part of it is now, right?
No,
Right.
The
I would
curriculum committee was
disagree.
solely one way for us to
Okay.
get a voice heard on this body.
Perfect. Okay. But that's the biggest component we need to continue on with this portion from this board. Would you agree with that?
I think the sentiments and the stated that needs to be incorporated into continuing operations in some manner that has the appropriate backing and follow through by the district is what I'm hearing needs to happen.
That
moving
needs to be
forward.
stated because at this point in time, that is the single biggest issue we have out of the things that we were doing or doing today. The curriculum committee is the one that needs to move forward in some capacity. So we need to add something to that as well, probably, right, Lane, Nate, April, everybody?
I don't know if that needs to be captured in this
Okay.
document.
All right. All right.
But if other people feel differently, feel free to.
I just don't
Yes,
want it to be lost. That's my concern.
I don't think it'll be lost. It's a state mandate. It's how we choose to do it is what it is. Regardless, we're going to have something going on. It's just how we choose to do it. And I think, moving forward, hopefully we'll have a more normal year and we can regroup in August and we can look at it and compare plans like Lane was talking about. I mean, we have SIA plans, SIP plans, all this stuff that we're doing. It's just that we need to come together and look at it and have the time to do it. And we just haven't had the time this year.
Yeah.
And in the normal way, in the normal structured way. It's kind of hard to have meetings, via email or Zoom or whatever. So I think coming together and regrouping this summer and into the fall will help.
I also think though, talking with, association leadership potentially of traditionally when we have these committees, like we could, we have our SIA work, we have our SIP work, we have our, Nate was at all of those. He was there when we were doing SIA planning. You were there for the SIP. I remember that. It was you and Corey Christensen, weren't you? Yeah. See?
I don't know what
So
any
it's
of those things are, which just goes to show you I've been here for 8 years. I don't know what you're talking about. Like
you were in those meetings.
Right.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But we got to figure out, we need to talk to each other about like what makes the most sense of like, how do we make it so that way it's like, it's not just another meeting for people to sit in. It's actually like drives the change that we got involved with this board in the first place to kind of like to push along. And I think we're doing some really cool work and we're doing the pieces, but like Nate's saying, or I'm not sorry, I shouldn't say that, but what I'm hearing is like, it's just not permeated through to the fiber yet. There's spots. So yeah, let's keep this discussion going. And then Alyssa, as my boss, keep me accountable to make sure I do that.
So
you got it.
Thank you.
Do we want to redraft that resolution and the next meeting, or do we want to push it forward this meeting?
I just cut out that fourth whereas.
Okay. All right. Well, I think curriculum committee, or whatever it may be called in the future, I think a big component of that needs to be how we're delivering education to kids. And I think we found that more important this year than ever. And I think that should be a big part of that curriculum is how do you engage curriculum in a different way that it can be transitioned real quickly, right? You all have had a very good education on that, and you have a better understanding of that than most of us do out here. So I think that's a big component of what the curriculum committee should bring forth. So that way there's less interruption in that education delivery. So that's my 2 cents.
So then let me show. Hey, Jason, could you allow me to share my screen so I could show everybody what I've got so far? Jason.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
Oh, it's okay.
let's see
I thought maybe you'd curled up next to the air conditioner and
here. Oh no, you're not wrong.
Was it pretty hot at the school today?
I don't really have any option to allow you to share, Lana. Oh, here we go. Maybe it's over here. Nope.
should be able to click maybe on participants.
Well, it says one participant can share at a time.
Just make it to all. We trust everybody.
Okay. All right, it's set.
Okay, and then this is what we've got. Okay, so here's the resolution. Removed the fourth whereas, corrected the date here, and changed this date to today. Does anybody see any other changes they would want to see?
Do we need a formal motion to adopt this resolution?
Yes.
Is there a motion on the floor to adopt this resolution made by anybody?
Does it need to be said in a certain way?
I think you would just say you move to, adopt
Adopt.
Resolution
Number
as
20.
and I would say as amended because we made
Okay.
changes on
Okay.
it.
I'll go ahead and make the motion. We move to adopt the resolution number 20A as amended.
Is there a second? I can't second, can I, Lane?
Yeah. You
I
can.
can. I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. Motion's been passed. Well, Nate and April, I really appreciate all you guys have done on this board. You guys have been here long before me, Nate especially. So I stand behind my statement. I am fully committed. So ask me, call me. Lane can give you my number. I'm more than happy to help in any way I can going forward. Let me get back to my notes. All right, charter board comments. Any comments for the good of the charter board? I guess I do have some on the sanitary water district or the park district side. SB 745 was passed, so the boards will be adopting those resolutions hopefully this week to pull that park into the community boundary. That's the goal of ours, as well as Orenco will be here next Monday, who is the sanitary company we're working with to try and get the sanitation system into the community. And we're going to be meeting at the park or at the school lane. So just an FYI, you might see an Orenco car there in the morning around 10 a.m. But that is some things that are happening outside of this board that hopefully will help the community as a whole. And I appreciate everybody. Everybody's worked hard on this. Any other comments from anybody else?
Well, I know I'm not technically a board member, but can I speak to kind of next steps on some of this because of this?
Yep.
So I think we'll have to edit the charter contract to, sorry, I've got you guys on the separate screen and I'm looking over, not instead of looking at the camera. So we'll have to edit our charter contract to reflect the change in governance to the district board. And then they'll have to accept that, and then we'll send that to ODE. And then I believe there'd be some work that still needs to happen with the 501c nonprofit to look at its mission and charge and make those changes. So then that way it can live on to continue to support the district. So those are the next kind of two steps on that.
Since we've adopted the resolution, there will be no future agenda or board meeting for this group. Are there any other board members that would be interested in helping with the curriculum committee? Melanie or Lacey or? I guess if there is, just let Lane know and he can provide them our numbers going forward. So just keep that in mind. I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything else to give the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good evening.